Russia launches another major wave of attacks targeting Ukraine. Moscow's missile and drone bombardment killed at least 16 people in and around Kyiv, in one of the most intense aerial attacks on Ukraine's capital since the start of the war. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched dozens of ballistic, cruise and hypersonic missiles, along with 168 drones, during the overnight attack. Ukraine reported that it shot down 41 of 46 cruise missiles and 145 drones. But none of an unspecified number of high-speed ballistic missiles were intercepted. So, why is Ukraine struggling to defend itself? One major reason is Russia's increasing use of ballistic missiles. When Russia launches a ballistic missile at Ukraine, air defense systems may have only minutes, and sometimes just seconds, to detect and intercept the threat. That extremely short window is leaving Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities increasingly exposed to devastating attacks. Ukraine says the US-made Patriot air defense system is the only system capable of intercepting these ballistic missiles. But the country says it simply does not have enough Patriot batteries or interceptors to protect all of its territory. And ballistic missiles are particularly difficult to stop. Unlike cruise missiles, which fly more like pilotless aircraft, ballistic missiles are launched like rockets before diving steeply toward their targets at several times the speed of sound. That means defenders have far less time to detect the missile, track its trajectory, and destroy the warhead before it reaches its target. Russia has several types of missiles that pose a major challenge for Ukraine. The Kremlin's main ground-launched ballistic missile is the Iskander-M. Then there is the air-launched Kinzhal missile. Russia has also used S-300 and S-400 air defense missiles against ground targets. And while the Zircon is technically a hypersonic anti-ship cruise missile, its extreme speed creates an interception challenge similar to that of a ballistic missile. So, how does Ukraine try to protect itself from some of Russia's deadliest projectiles? The most capable Patriot system supplied to Ukraine is specifically designed for high-speed missile defense. Its PAC-3 system does not simply explode near an incoming missile. Instead, it uses a highly maneuverable interceptor designed to collide directly with the incoming warhead. That means the Patriot has to detect and track the missile, predict its path, and launch an interceptor within minutes. And sometimes, defenders have only seconds to make the final engagement. According to Ukrainian Air Force spokesman, Patriots are currently the only system in Ukrainian service capable of intercepting Russia's Iskander-M, S-400 and Zircon missiles. The United States and its allies operate other anti-ballistic missile systems, including THAAD and sea-based Aegis defenses. But those systems have not been provided to Ukraine. And even Patriot protection is not guaranteed. If a Patriot battery is absent, out of position, or running low on interceptors, most other Ukrainian air defenses cannot simply take its place. Ukraine also does not have enough Patriot batteries to protect every city. Russia exploits that weakness by combining ballistic missiles with cruise missiles and drones. That forces Ukrainian defenders to track multiple threats at once, while carefully rationing their limited supply of interceptors. The shortage has become even more serious as the US-Israeli war with Iran has consumed large numbers of Patriot and THAAD interceptors. An analysis by the Associated Press estimated that the US Patriot inventory had fallen by at least 65% from its pre-war level. The Pentagon, however, said it still retained a deep arsenal. There have also been changing political signals from Washington. At a NATO summit in Turkey in July, U.S. President Donald Trump said the United States would give Ukraine a license to produce Patriots. But weeks later, Trump said he had not made a final decision. And even if Ukraine gets that license, officials and experts told AP that setting up production inside Ukraine could take years. Ukraine is also looking at another approach, destroying Russian missile launchers and related infrastructure before the missiles can even be fired. In other words, shooting the archer instead of the arrow. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy asked Trump to help secure Elon Musk's permission for Ukrainian forces to use Starlink communications for targeting inside Russia, where Musk has restricted the service. According to someone familiar with the matter, Zelenskyy also told lawmakers on Capitol Hill that he wanted Starlink to help with targeting inside Russia. Both sources spoke on condition of anonymity because they were discussing sensitive private conversations. If Ukraine gets that access, it could help Ukrainian drones locate Russian missile launchers and related infrastructure. That could reduce the number of missiles that Ukrainian Patriot batteries have to intercept. Kyiv is also developing another option called Freya, a proposed Ukrainian-led, lower-cost anti-ballistic missile system designed to reduce the country's dependence on Patriots. In July, Ukraine and 9 European countries formed a coalition to pursue a shared missile defense capability. Zelenskyy said the countries could jointly develop a mass-produced system within 12 months. But Freya is still under development, and it remains unclear when the system could actually become operational. For more than 4 years, Russia and Ukraine have been locked in the biggest armed conflict in Europe since the Second World War. On February 24th, Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russian forces entered from Belarus, Russia and Crimea, attacking targets across the country. Moscow said its military operation was aimed at protecting Russian interests and addressing what it described as security threats. Ukraine and its Western allies rejected those claims and described the invasion as an unprovoked act of aggression. Russia initially advanced toward Kyiv, but Ukrainian forces pushed Russian troops back from areas around the capital. The fighting then became concentrated largely in eastern and southern Ukraine. Since then, the war has evolved into a prolonged battle involving artillery, missiles, drones, trenches, and long-range strikes. Russia currently controls roughly 20% of Ukraine's territory, according to the Council on Foreign Relations. Ukraine, meanwhile, continues to launch strikes against Russian military, industrial, and energy targets, including deep inside Russian territory. And the fighting remains intense. Just this week, Russia launched one of its heaviest aerial attacks on Kyiv, using ballistic, cruise, and hypersonic missiles along with 168 drones. Ukrainian authorities said at least 16 people were killed and dozens were wounded. Ukraine says its biggest challenge is its limited supply of advanced air defense systems, particularly Patriot interceptors, which are among the few systems capable of countering Russia's ballistic missile threat. At the same time, Ukraine has significantly expanded its use of long-range drones against Russian territory, targeting oil facilities, military infrastructure, and other strategic sites. So, what about peace? There have been diplomatic efforts, including US-mediated discussions, but they have not produced a ceasefire. The two sides remain far apart, particularly over territory and security guarantees for Ukraine. As of August 2026, the war is still continuing, with Russia holding significant Ukrainian territory, Ukraine continuing to resist and strike back, and both sides facing pressure to find a political solution. Russia says it is open to new ideas for peace, but insists any settlement must reflect what it calls the realities on the ground. Ukraine and its allies continue to seek a settlement that preserves Ukraine's sovereignty and provides long-term security guarantees. For now, however, there is no comprehensive ceasefire, and the Russia-Ukraine war remains an active and unresolved conflict.